Okay, so is Brady the GOAT because of the 7 Super Bowls? If he's the GOAT because of the 7, then I don't see where Patrick Mahomes is going to get 7. I mean, it's hard to get 1.
Yeah.
Okay, and Patrick Mahomes has been to 5 AFC Championship games, all hosted at Arrowhead Stadium, 3 Super Bowls, only 28 years old, 1, 2. Could have gone to another if D Ford toe or finger or whatever it was wasn't at the line of scrimmage.
Or if Brady hadn't converted 3 straight.
Yeah, but we're not talking about what Brady had done, because then we could start picking Brady's Super Bowls apart. Thanks to this guy sitting to the left of me, that was a gift wrap Super Bowl that the Seattle Seahawks,
Thanks to me.
Yeah, the Seattle Seahawks, y'all.
You said thanks to me.
Well, you're on the team. You could have vetoed the entire situation.
The entire pass play?
Yeah, gave it to Marshawn Lynch. But in all seriousness, if you're gauging it based solely on the Super Bowls, I don't know that Patrick Mahomes is going to get 5 to 6 more to eclipse. I don't see it.
Okay, but if you just go straight eye test, I think your eye test tells you.
Then I would say, yes, he has an opportunity, because I think he has 1, 2, maybe even 3 more Super Bowls over the next 10 years in his career. Then yes, I would say.
Fair to say,
that
you've just enjoyed watching Mahomes play quarterback more than you ever enjoyed watching Tom play quarterback.
No, not at all. No, not at all. I look at, for me. So when I look at the Super Bowls and the championships and the ride that Tom Brady was on in New England, and I say to myself, those first couple Super Bowls, I give a lot of that defense and that running game and Corey Dillon and Willie McGinnis and Teddy Bruschi. The first two. He had a methodical drive. He did a methodical drive, sprinkled and got him in the field goal range and did all. I get it.
But Carolina was a shootout.
I get it. I understand that. But I say the first 2. Outside of that, Brady. Then there was a 10-year period of time. Gift wrap to Seattle one. Tampa Bay orchestrated great defense. He did what he was supposed to do. Very efficient at winning it. When I look at Patrick Mahomes, it's always about the offense and Andy Reid when they were winning these Super Bowls. In the defense, they played okay, but nobody was going into there saying, lights out Kansas City defense, you got to be careful with them. It was all about the quarterback. So to me, he was carrying the team at a young age with a lot of room to win more championships.
Yep.
So if he got 3 more, you could probably have a conversation.
I think it's going to definitely be a conversation depending on who you ask.
Yeah,
because
sure.
it's hard at this point because he's such a successful quarterback, and there were so many variables where you're like, what happens when Tyreek's gone? What happens when this is gone? What happens when Bieniemy's gone? What happens when this is gone?
Yep.
And he's had continued success through all of those things, through all of those transitions. So you can assume he will continue to have that kind of success. So if you would say he wins 2 more MVPs, he has a couple more 5,000-yard seasons, which is more likely with 17th game. You say he goes to a couple more Super Bowls, wins 1 or 2 more, then it'll be just like the LeBron-Jordan debate.
Yeah.
It'll depend on who you ask. You ask some witnesses, they will say LeBron, no questions. No question. If you ask guys that watch Michael Jordan like yourself, they will no question say Michael Jordan. Right. It depends on who
you need to do is just use your eye test.
Right, but it depends on who you watch. Who watched him? Yeah. There's no eye test for some of these kids. Once Mahomes is retired, there will be some of those guys who never even watched Brady play, which will be crazy. But it's guys who haven't watched Peyton Manning play, and they won't say Peyton Manning's in the discussion because they never watched him.
But I watched him, Rich, and he ain't in the discussion. It's Joe Montana, Tom Brady, and Patrick Mahomes.
Right. But no kid's going to say Joe Montana because they haven't watched him play.
I understand.
And nowadays, you got access to the film. I can go all 22 on Tom. I can go all 22 on Peyton and Aaron and do all that. I can't go all 22 on Joe's time. I wish I could. I wish I could go find that tape and be like, oh, man, Joe's pretty good. Rewind, fast forward, stop, play. We don't have that tape. So he'll be in the discussion because of who watched him play and how long and how he plays the game. They changed the way they draft because of this kid. Okay. Caleb Williams is a potential #1 pick because of Patrick Mahomes. Back in the day, they would not have taken Caleb Williams #1. They wouldn't even thought about it because he's playing an uncharacteristic style of football. He's breaking football rules. He's throwing across his body, fading away, throwing into traffic, holding the ball, swinging it around, like breaking every rule that you say as a quarterback. You don't do. So I would say.
Okay, this is no personal shot at Patrick Mahomes because I think he's a really good kid. And I think he's still a kid, but he is a face of the franchise, and I admire
So it's a
what he
shot there
stands
because you
for.
started off by saying this is no personal
Well,
shot.
speaking of shot, he's got no shot in his life of ever passing this guy.
Okay.
This guy in New England, Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr., won his first 6 Super Bowls with game-winning drives in the fourth quarter or overtime. That's off the charts clutch. I've always said, in totality, his clutchness even eclipses Jordan's clutchness just because he had so many more clutch opportunities on the biggest stage in your sport, the Super Bowl, to do what he just kept on keeping on doing. And if you look at the ones he lost, the first Eli Super Bowl, he goes 70 yards in 12 plays and hits Randy Moss with a 5-yard touchdown pass, doing what he always did with 2 minutes left in the game to give them a 14-10 lead. And then Belichick's defense spit the bit against Eli's offense because Eli then goes 75 yards, thanks to Eli just putting a hand over his eyes and throwing it as far as he could, and it sticks in the face mask, right?
Right.
All right, so that's a loss. And then how about the loss to Philly? Tom throws for an all-time playoff record, not a Super Bowl record, 505 yards, and it's Belichick's defense that spits the bit again and gave up, what was the score, 40? Didn't Philly hit 40 with Nick Foles at quarterback?
Yep.
Okay, so you can't put that on Tom. And then you look at that AFC Championship game and you talk about D Ford. I give you that. That was a little shaky. But in overtime, in the cold and the wind in Kansas City, Tom Brady faces 3 straight 3rd and 10s. This is impossible. You cannot convert one of them as opposed to 3 in a row. And he goes to Edelman, and then he goes to Gronk, and he goes to Gronk, and they go down, and finally they just hand it off and score, and they win the game because there was no overtime rule where they just won the toss, and so they won the game. I've watched Patrick Mahomes in the first Super Bowl. You were there, and he was trying to give it to you guys. He was trying. He threw a late 3rd quarter pick and then an early 4th quarter. But when it was time, it was time. And he chewed you up and spat you out down the stretch of that game. He sliced and he diced. But then against Philadelphia last year in the Super Bowl, they had a very torchable defense. It's still torchable to this day. And Patrick threw for a grand total of 182 in that game. Not all that impressive. And they got one huge 4th quarter punt return that flipped that game on its head. Not to mention Jalen just losing the handle in the first half in a way he just lost. I don't know what happened. You just lose your mind for a second and you lose control of the football and they take it in for a score. I haven't been blown away by Patrick yet because I also saw him against Tom in the Super Bowl, albeit at Tampa, but he stunk in that game. You can say, well, nobody was there to block for him. I got it, but I don't think Brady had a
there to block for him. That's the truth.
But
he had
Brady's had some shaky offensive lines.
He was running for his life.
Maybe you need to get rid of the football faster in those circumstances.
But what I'd say is, it's hard to say that right now for me because he just won the MVP last season, leading the league in passing yards, passing TDs, QBR, and an MVP with a Super Bowl and a Super Bowl MVP to end. So if that's what he did last season, there's nothing to tell me that he's not going to do that going forward and he's not going to have great stats. He's
8 years old.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks are playing close until they're 40 years old now.
Yep.
He's got a 10-year runway. Okay. He continues to do it despite what offensive weapons, a lot like Brady, but despite what offensive weapons is at his disposal. He continues to lead his team to AFC championship games.
He does.
Then the Super Bowls, winning the MVPs, and he's only 28.
And what's crazy is we talk about Brady. Brady is a phenomenal. He'll be the GOAT in my eyes. He'll be the GOAT in your eyes. He'll be the GOAT. But these young kids.
You shared a locker room with him.
No question.
You saw him up close and personal.
Incredible teammate, incredible person, incredible ball player, the way he prepares. I mean, how he was preparing in year 20 versus, I don't know how he was preparing in year 2, but Mahomes is the face of the franchise and has been almost the entirety of his career. Yeah. So Brady wasn't the face of the franchise, the face of the league when he was having his success, and that kind of exposure is going to skew. It's going to skew people's opinion
toward Patrick Mahomes.
100%.
If you think about it, Skip, in Brady's first 6 seasons or so, where Patrick Mahomes is at now, Brady did similar things, win Super Bowls and all of that, and being on Super Bowl teams. It's the same thing, Patrick Mahomes. The difference is Patrick Mahomes is winning league MVPs. Patrick Mahomes is winning Super Bowl MVPs, where Brady wasn't early in his career. This is still relatively early in Patrick Mahomes' career when we're talking about quarterbacks playing into their 40. So he's got plenty of runway to catch him. Do I think he's going to win 7 Super Bowls? I don't. I just don't, because it's hard to win one.
All right, just to cap this off, just remember, in perspective, he gets kicked out the back door in New England, and he says, I think I'll go to Tampa. And we all sat back and said, well, what are you doing going to
Defense,
Tampa? I know, but a lot of people said, huh?
Yeah, but
To
you can
Tampa?
see the
I
roster.
got it. He saw it way before a lot of people saw it. Now it's easy hindsight 2020.
2020, yeah.
But it was the pandemic. He's down there breaking rules, quarantine rules in the park, throwing to his receivers, trying to get them ready to understand the Patriot way in Tampa Bay. You experienced a taste of it there. And all of a sudden, he takes a 7-9 team. Still, the cupboard was not bare because those 2 receivers are really good. But he took them up a whole nother level, and they go win in their first year the Super Bowl. Come on, that's putting a big old exclamation point on the end of that.
No question. But what I'm talking about is there's just a public perception bias. They will see Patrick Mahomes in a way Brady wasn't at the forefront until the end of his career.
Okay,
he was at the forefront and winning when he was supposed to be. Patrick Mahomes is in your face from the beginning till the end. He'll
The
be
conversation,
Okay,
and the
will be.
conversation about Brady is always linked back to Coach Belichick.
Okay.
The conversation isn't necessarily linked back to Andy Reid the way it is Bill
Okay.
Belichick, even though Belichick hadn't won anything since Brady left.
Let me sum that up for you. If you really understand what happened in New England, Brady often won in spite of Belichick in the locker room because Belichick, listen, a lot of players did not love the way he coached them because he coached old school hard and verbally, abusively hard in ways nobody in today's world can get away with unless you have a Brady in the locker room saying, it's okay, we'll figure it out. Just take it, suck it up, swallow it. We're going to win this Sunday, okay? Am I right?
I mean, to a degree, but I just feel like it's just like LeBron. It's just like LeBron. LeBron came into the
How did
league
he
with
get in this discussion?
because that's the way they're going to see Patrick Mahomes. He stayed in your LeBron when he came into the league. He was in your face. He was the best player. He took his team to a championship. He had a lot of early success.
Yes.
He was who you thought he was supposed to be.
Absolutely.
And so that put him in the discussion. We're putting him in the discussion because he's early on been what they expected him to be and greater. So.
You have that conversation, Skip, about early on. Whenever you have the Brady early on conversations with football people, the first thing they're gonna say, yeah, he won the Super Bowl, but he had this. They're not gonna say that about Patrick Mahomes' early success.
No.
They're gonna say it was Patrick
My bad.
Mahomes that did it. Now, the second half of Mahomes' career, let's see if he could do what Brady was able to do in that 10-year gap, then all of a sudden go on another historical run.
Okay.
Should have changed his number like Kobe.
Right.
Could have retired twice.
Argue that.
2 Hall of Fame careers. Yeah.
But if, in fact, Brady won in spite of Belichick often at New England, Mahomes
But
has
you
won,
say that.
But wait a second. I'm right about this. Trust me on this. Mahomes has won because of Andy Reid in Kansas City. I'm not giving Andy full credit. I'm just saying it helped that Andy Reid handpicked him and allows him to
also-
do whatever he feels like doing of the moment.
But it
Behind
also
his back,
helps,
through the
Skip,
leg.
it also helps that he was picked by Belichick, and Belichick surrounded things.
sort of.
That Ram game that they won the Super Bowl.
I'll give you that one.
That was a
Come on.
Belichick win. That was a
The
Belichick win.
greatest show on turf, number 2, offensively with the
It was
Wizard and Sean
phenomenal.
McVay.
That's
Him and Brian Flores, whatever they mastered up in the
That was an
kitchen,
incredible.
masterpiece. I
they
give
took
you.
care of business.
They changed the way defenses play that style of offense.
That's all I'm saying. So let's
Do not
call it the way
underestimate
it is.
with John Madden sitting up in the booth that day against those Rams, saying they got to just shut it down and play for overtime because they got this kid quarterback who's never played in these big games before. Belichick, just to his credit, said, just let him go. Charlie Weiss is saying, he's fine. He's fine. He completes 5 straight passes to set up. They weren't bomb passes, but 5 straight significant throws are completed to set up. Montana-like Adam Vinatieri from 49 yards at the buzzer, okay?
Yeah.
He set that up. So to their credit, they said, we trust him. because I was there for that snow job game, that tuck rule game. And
I didn't see you. I was there too.
Were you there? Doing what?
We'll have an off-camera conversation.
Okay. All right. Well, I was sitting in the press
I was
box.
doing some recruiting.
I see. I see. We're going to talk about that another
I'm
day.
sitting there saying, what? And again, it was a terrible overruled call.
Yeah.
And Al Davis, who I knew very well, God rest his soul, told me that call came from New York. And that call was intended to get even with me, and that's what I believe happened. But Tom, in that game, if you go break down that tape, again, in the snow, maybe his receivers have an advantage over you guys because you don't know where they're going and they do. But he just picked the Oakland Raiders to pieces that day with a lot of big clutch throws. So I guess we closed the door on this debate. It's Brady forever.
Brady, Mahomes,
Brady,
and Montana. That's it.
All right, speaking of Tom Brady, is he now giving Shadur Sanders advice on a Rolls Royce?
Good advice, too. Good advice.
Man, if you don't stop.
That's great advice.
Oh.
Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Do you want more highlights from the show? Make sure to click that subscribe button for all the exclusive content from Undisputed.